8 years old with a rifle and a prayer. Squirrels in the branches, cold November air. Shot 'em in the head so they dropped straight down. Skinned 'em with a dull knife, no one else around. Hollowed the wood and with a hatchet that wouldn't cut. Fire burned out by midnight, woke up frozen shut. Broke the ice on the well just to get a drink. Nobody was coming, learned real fast not to think. And Jim rode up in that Sunbeam Alpine. Pistol on his hip, stood tall as a pine. Put me to work at 10 in the yard. 2,000 cars and the iron hit hard. I set the prices, I knew every part. Handed him a fistful, hoping for his heart. Cut the steel, crushed the frames, loaded up the truck. All I ever wanted was for him to give a damn, that was enough. Vietnam was calling, the draft had my name. Boys were running north, but that wasn't my game. You wanna send me? Fine, I'll choose my own. I joined the United States Marines, I earn it to the bone. Helicopters shaking, rotors in the rain. Crew chief on a 46, I learned to love the pain. 3 years in Japan, I bowed and I fought. Learned karate with my fists and things that can't be taught. Back in the world and I couldn't sit still. Civilian life was loose, I was looking for the kill. Built a fortune up from nothing but my hands. Too many women, too much work, I couldn't understand it. Everything I built was a wall around the man. Colombia opened my eyes, I saw what life could be. Came back home and burned the playbook, them and set me free. I restructured companies, I spoke across the land. 30-day disasters down to 3, nobody else could understand. Trade magazines, radio shows, carcassed on the wall. Nationally recognized, I answered every call. 200 articles deep, editor for 8 years straight. I was the man they flew in when the whole damn thing was late. Wealthy twice, I built it twice, I lost it once before. But every time I hit the floor, I got up wanting more. Skyrocket life, the top was mine. I owned the stage, the plan. Then cancer came knocking. Spindle cell, they said it's rare, they said I wouldn't last. Same age my brother died, the cruelest kind of glass. Drained every penny, left me flat and thin. but something deep inside me said it isn't time to give in. So I packed 4 bags and flew to Ecuador. 8,000 feet where the air was pure. Found some peace, found some friends, found a doctor who could see. But Colombia kept calling and I had to heed the plea. Armenia, Quindío, I finally found my home. Videos and coffee, I was done with being alone. Hundreds of stories filmed across the mountain green. The busiest I've been since I was 17. Then my heart gave way. A year recovering, but it's still not right. The body's slowing down, I can feel it in the night. The energy I carried like it couldn't run dry. Turns out even stubborn men eventually ask why. Now write my books because the stories need a voice. I refuse to lay down, that has always been my choice. But I'll admit what I never said before. I am finally tired, but I'm still not done. spills through the cafe door. Mike goes live like it's done before. 9 years deep in these mountain towns, we brew the truth, not just sit around. I came for a visit, then stayed for the view. But the soul of this place, it just pulls you through. Mornings in Finlandia, nights in Salento. Life don't move fast, but man, it's full tempo. This ain't a pitch, it's real as it gets. From lost bags to love and bureaucratic regrets. No script here, just the sound of real lives told live every week under Colombian skies. It's coffee time lived from the heart of Quindío, where the screen fades out and the real stories flow from expats who landed and locals who guide. We laugh, we vent, we cry, we ride. It's not about views, it's about the vibe. Just raw conversation, live and alive. Got folks tuning in from every time zone, asking what's it like to make this place your own. It's mango trees, it's rent debates, it's finding peace past the clickbait gates. Some days we talk visas, some days we just breathe and sip dark roast while the valley grieves through mudslides, marches, markets, and mess. We show up with stories, no more, no less. It's coffee time lived, not just a name on a screen. It's 9 years of mornings and everything between. No hype, just heart and a decent brew. A place for the honest, the warm, the true. Not selling dreams, just sharing the ride from right here in Quindío, live. And if you've ever felt a little lost or wide awake at dawn, this show was made for you to lean on. We're not tourists here, we belong, we build in mountain towns where the air stands still. So bring your mug, your doubts, your days. We'll light 'em up in soft cafe rays. It's not a podcast, it's a porch-like glow. It's home and a headline, a yes and a no. It's coffee time live, come as you are, from my table in Colombia to wherever you are.
Welcome back to the channel, Grand Colombia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live here in Quindío. That's Armenia, Quindío, Colombia. And here's my Coffee Time mug. And you too can have your Coffee Time mug just like this. Send me $100 and you can pick it up at your nearest stationery store. Yes, no problem. Okay. Got a good one today. I love this story and I'm glad I'm going to tell it. And the thing is, I steered away from it for a long time because I kept thinking, yeah, but I've done it. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I never actually told the story. I told bits and pieces here and there, but never told the story. And it's a big story. It's worth a main topic. So today I'm going to cover a story that I've always loved, and for 9 years didn't tell it. Okay, so let's see here. Colombia peso 37.87, which is nicer. It's been hovering around 38, 37, high 37s all this past week. It's better than a sharp stick in the eye, and it's better than 3,500, so I'm happy about it. And currently it says it's 74 degrees, and we're going to have a high of 78, and we're going to get a low of about 64. In other words, pretty much the same as every day of every week of every month all year long. This is a second cup. I didn't really want a second cup, but my throat's always a problem this past year or so. And I figured coffee's good on the throat. So even though I had one this morning while I was working, speaking of, I got 2 emails in the last two and a half weeks asking me the same question. I get that a lot. I don't know how they go in waves. You're retired. You said you're in the apartment most of the time. What do? You must be going crazy. And on my third cup. Yeah, but I'm not one of those guys. I have about 6 cups a week, all in the morning. And it's just how it goes. Anyway, yeah, I'm addicted to the taste of the coffee that I drink, but there's no caffeine issue going on, which is a wonderful thing. Mr. B. Nick, how are you? Buen dia, Chad. Hello. Tommy, good morning. It's covered up, but I think there was an Isabel or Isabella this morning that chimed in. By the way, I had a couple people that were on here real early. I don't know. We don't get daylight savings time. And so for you, it's what, 12 o'clock maybe? I don't know. We're the same all year long. We're what you should be. But I had a couple people, I couldn't figure out so early. Oh, wait a minute. I think this weekend is the change of the clock for you guys. We forget. Anyway, this isn't an advertisement. This isn't a promotion thing. It's a legitimate answer to the question. That's why I'm not going to go into any detail. But I've been going crazy writing. I sit here at this desk. This is my desk also. And I probably spend 10 hours a day at this desk, not all at the same time. It's usually in maybe 6 hours. I get up about 4:30, and I come right in here and I start. And then I'll go out and get a coffee and do my medicine, all that kind of stuff. I come back here and I'm here. So there's probably, I don't know, 5-6 hours, depending on how I feel. Then I grab lunch. And then I'll watch TV. Mostly I'll watch YouTube to see if there's anything interesting. There's 2 or 3 things that I tend to follow. And sometimes I'll fall asleep for about 30 minutes. And then I'll get back up and I'll come in here and I'll work the rest of the afternoon till about typically 6 o'clock. And that's pretty much almost every day of the week. And because of that, this past year, I was able to write and publish these books. I'm still working on my life book, autobiography that I've been working on for years. And I thought I'd be done by now. In January, I thought I would be done by now, but it's hard it's really difficult. Maybe because I don't have as much interest in my own life story as I do in these topics that I got into, and I just couldn't stop. I couldn't put it down. I didn't sleep a bunch of days. But I also have another project that I'm currently working on between all this other stuff. I'm writing a program. Now, I haven't been a programmer since computer engineering back in the early 80s. SUNY or SUNY State University, New York, had a program, Bachelor of Science, Computer Engineering. And when I got back out of the Marines, I went back to university because it was paid for. As a matter of fact, I was on a plan where they actually paid me every month for going to school, and they paid for the books and they paid the tuition. I wasn't going to let it go to waste. I had a couple years to get another bachelor's degree. I already had one. So didn't have to do the full 4 years because I already had some stuff, aviation management. So there we go. And there was programming involved, but this is ancient times. This was COBOL and Fortran, things like that. It was a nightmare. I realized how much I hated it. I might as well work on an assembly line somewhere. But I carry some of the, I have a basic understanding, and a lot of things are written in Python. And because I love Frank Zappa and his Python boots are too tight, I fit right in with that program. And I do pretty good with it, but we have AI. And so I said, wait a minute, instead of me beating my head against the wall on this thing, why don't I ask AI, can you, I laid out the parameters of what I was trying to do. And oh yeah, no problem. Well, we're on the 47th iteration right now of that program. So I wouldn't say it was no problem. It's very difficult. However, I'm getting close. It's almost ready for beta. And it looks like this. And what it basically is when I prepare for coffee time or Sane in Colombia, there's a process that I have to go through. And on average, it takes about 5 hours. You have to think of a topic. And so you come up with different topics. Then you got to research and figure out which ones actually would be good. And so you got a lot of back and forth and research. Okay, now I pick a topic. Now I need to research that specific topic, gather all the good stuff. And AIs come in and really reduced the time. But, you still have to drive it because it doesn't know. It only knows what you tell it almost. So anyway, you got to go through that process. And then you got to write the outline. You got to write a script and all of these things that you have to do. You have to create a thumbnail, and it takes about 5 hours. Well, this program, I have it cut down to where it takes about 20 minutes. And it uses AI, but instead of going in and having conversations, most of it is already pre-programmed. And so you just sit down and approve. Like it'll give you 5 topics to choose from, and you approve based on whatever your channel is, and you can approve one or you can ask for another 5 or whatever, and you pick it, and it'll go do the research for you, and it'll write the outline for you. It'll offer up a teleprompter script, which you can change and edit, but it's basically it's all there in your voice, the way the samples of your writing previous scripts. It learns from that. So depending on how you are and what your mood and temperament is and all that, it knows all of that stuff. It remembers all that. So it's all in the setup. But once it's set up every week, you're basically just clicking through it and making sure it's on track for what you want. And I've run a few through. It really sucked at first, but I've been running it through recently, and they're pretty damn good. I haven't done one yet, but I've done them. I just haven't actually used them. Anyway, so to those that wonder what the hell I'm doing now that I'm mostly stuck in my apartment, which hopefully that changes soon, but I've been stuck here for almost a year, 10 months or so, 9 months. but that's what I do. And I'm busier than I can't remember 20 years ago. Maybe I was this busy. Okay, so there's that. Good morning from Vancouver. How are you? Yes, 12 Eastern time. Yeah, okay, that was the issue. Yeah, I felt bad about it, but I don't know. Not my fault. My time didn't change. Yours did. Okay, some water, some coffee. And for those of you who didn't give a damn about what I do in my time, sorry about that. But if you got questions, I will answer yours too. So send them on to me. You can put them in chat or you can send me an email. I'm always looking for suggestions, so that's always good. Okay, let's go to headlines. I don't know if I did this last week. I don't remember doing this, so I'm doing it again this week, or I'm doing it for the first time this week. But you can see this is February 25th. The mayor's office of Armenia cancels the loan of Centenario Stadium. That's our big stadium in the south part of Armenia, to Sport Club of Pareda after violent incidents. So Pareda, there's an issue with, we've got a beautiful, as you can see, a beautiful stadium. It's got full nighttime lighting. It's got all kinds of facilities and amenities. It's an overall sport complex. It's got all kinds of things, Olympic pools and tennis courts, and you name it, it exists there. And every year they keep adding to it. So anyway, Pareda wanted to borrow the stadium, and they did. Except the people from Pareda came in, they didn't know how to act. And we're not animals here in Armenia, but the people in Pareda kind of were. They watch what goes on in Europe and thought they would duplicate it here. And so they were throwing things around and starting fights and just being general violent idiots. And so the mayor said, all right, we've had enough. That's it. The agreement we had, it's done, canceled. You don't know how to act. Don't bother. So I don't know if you follow Sean Ryan, but he has had some great guests on with AI topic. I'm aware of him. I've seen excerpts of his. I think his show is really good because he's one of those like Rogan that lets people talk and exhaust the topic. I love that. I don't care if they're 2 or 3 hours. I appreciate actually understanding what they're trying to say instead of the interviewer interpreting and interrupting. I hate that. And so I have a lot of respect for him and what he does. There's a bunch of them now on YouTube that are all following that. It's all long content, hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it takes to get out there. Lucky, what's his name, that sold the Oculus to Facebook, made his billions, and now he's a defense contractor making some of the finest, most advanced helmets and drones, and he's killing it. He just said, I'm going to do it. He's like another Elon Musk. He decides to do something, he does it, and he does it 20 years ahead of everybody else. And I got to learn about him on a couple of those long content deals. So yeah, and I've burned up most. I stay on top of the latest headlines in AI, but for months I was in the learning state. I mean, you never stop, but there was just so much I didn't know, and it takes months and months to get to a certain point. And I've gotten past that point. I guess you'd say I'm an amateur expert. I can make it sing and dance for me now. I know it very well, and So I don't watch those too much anymore. But yeah. All right. I got another headline. I'm in a talkative mood today. Maybe it's a second cup. I don't know. All right. Little bad news for Armenia. The labor market in Armenia is weakening, more unemployed, and high levels of informality. Informality means you're out on the street panhandling or whatever. You're working, but it's unofficial. You're not on a payroll. It's really going up. A lot of people unemployed. It's not a surprise. A lot of us knew that was going to happen. I mentioned that January, I think I talked about it, but it sucks that it's actually rearing its ugly head. I got another headline. They should have been together, but I accidentally spaced them out. I'll talk more on it. If you're familiar with Parque de la Vida, the Park of Life, which is beautiful park. You can go and walk around there for 2 hours and not see the same thing. It's just an awesome place. It's our central park. But they've got a skate park that I'm not sure everybody knows about. And I've never really talked about it. It's been in the background of some videos, but I've never actually talked about it specifically. But this skate park, it's been there for years. It's got that blue, it's almost like a rubberized feel to it, which is awesome for skates because it's like silky smooth. It's got a banked turned loop if you're into racing. And then it's got this center section, picture an ice skating rink, but it's for skating. And it's got bleachers and they have school events there and things like that. It's in the park. It's available. And they just dumped a bunch more money into it by putting night lighting in there. It had some lights, but it wasn't really lit. It only had like security light kind of thing. So you didn't trip walking around, but now they've got lights, it's like it's lit up. And it's nice to see improvements. This one, Cordoba. I feel negligent on this. I've hit pretty much every pueblo in the department of Quindío except Cordoba. I mean, I've been there a few times. I think it was probably in a couple videos from just me going through, but I've never stopped and done a video in the place. I went there one time intending to do it, and then I had some issue. I think it was my SIM card or something. So I couldn't do it. And then I just never went back. I feel bad because I've hit everything except that. Even Montenegro, which I never intended to do, I did a bit of a video there. There is a video about a small portion of Montenegro, and then I said, let me get the hell out of here. Anyway, it's their 59th anniversary. So it's a very cool town, and it's often overlooked, which is why I feel bad about it. You can see it on the way to, if you're on the way to Pihao, you go through it. I've been to Pihao, I don't know, handful plus times. And so every time I had to go through Cordoba. Anyway, there's things going on this week there. And what's next? Inflation. This is the other part of that unemployment thing. Inflation in Armenia exceeded the national average in February and is putting pressure on spending on education and food. Prices jumping up. It had stabilized or jumping up. And it's no surprise when you take the minimum wage and you jump it over 23, almost 24%. This is exactly what happens. I mean, so people win for a month or two, but then for the rest of the year, everything stabilizes, but you're worse off because people got put out of jobs because businesses couldn't afford it. You know, it's something that's been known forever, yet I swear you get half of the populations, it doesn't matter what country, that believes it's going to be a good thing. And it never is. It never is. It always hurts. But the people that push it, they're not in that category. So they get to feel good about it by supporting it, but then they go along and their life is fine. They don't have to look back at the problems because they never deal with them. And I don't just mean rich people. I mean just middle class. If you're making a wage under the regular wage system, not the minimum wage, and the majority of people in Colombia are middle class, then you never directly experience those kinds of things. Anyway. All right. Is that it? I think that's it. Yeah, that's all the headlines. I do want to point out before we get to our main topic, right here. I can't log in. I don't know how it works. I can't get to your live chat. And it's like, okay, I want you to understand, and this has been going on for a long time. Right now, I am live streaming on Rumble, Coffee Time Live channel on Rumble. And my private or my personal channel on Rumble is Sane in Colombia. So instead of where it says Coffee Time Live, it says Sane in Colombia. That's Rumble. That's my main channel. And that's where everything's more direct. However, I also stream to my old personal channel on YouTube, right there, my name. I also stream to my personal channel on Facebook. It's currently right now in this minute playing on my page on Facebook live. It's also on X. My name is the account, x.com/Lauren David Lau. It's on X playing live this very moment. And if you write to me, and if you go in the live chat, if let's say for example you're in YouTube and you write in the live chat in YouTube, I will see it, and I will see Facebook, and I will see X. And it seems like most people over 30 aren't aware of this, but it's very, very popular with younger people. I like it because it works so easy and it never has a problem. I don't want it to be my main thing. Rumble, I'm in love with Rumble and I can make money with Rumble. But I run it on Kick because it's one of those, if you're under 30, you know all about it. And I've got, and so it's live streaming there. So I'm live streaming in 5 different places every Sunday. And every time I do Sane in Colombia, I'm on some of those. I'm not on everyone, but I'll be on X and YouTube for sure. Now, of course, I want everybody to be on Rumble with me because there's things that you will see and be part of and whatever that don't make it out there, but the live stream makes it and the chats make it back to me. Let me look. Nope, they're all Rumble right now, which is awesome. I like that. All right. So now what do we want to do here? We want to
Here's what's hot and happening now. Straight from the source, we show you how. Blue and bold, let's break it down. The main topic starts right now. Ow.
You've all seen this, right? I counted, there's 15 people on there. Some of the small buses that go between the cities only have 15 people. Okay. It's funny how the Jeep is the USA all the way, right? It's more Colombia. You ready? I'm excited. All right. I want to start this morning with a question. What do the liberation of Paris, the beaches of Normandy, General Patton's push across Europe and your drive through the Corcora Valley have in common? Assuming you've been here and you've done that. And if you're here, the answer is sitting right outside on the street. No matter where you live, somewhere. Probably rattling past your window right now, painted yellow or red, or maybe carrying 17 people and a goat, maybe a few chickens. The Willys Jeep. And I promise you, by the time we're done this morning, you're going to look at that little vehicle completely different. So let's go back, way back to the beginning. It's 1940. The world is on fire. Hitler's armies have swept across Poland. France has fallen. The United States military is watching the events in Europe with growing alarm, knowing they're probably going to get pulled into it. They don't have a war yet. Pearl Harbor's still a year away, but they know one is coming, and they know they're not ready. One of the things they desperately need is a small, fast, rugged reconnaissance vehicle. Something that can go anywhere, through mud, over rocks, across fields, or no roads at all. Light enough to be airlifted, but strong enough to carry a machine gun and maybe a radio, 3 soldiers, still climb a 45-degree slope. So they put out a request for bids. The spec was brutal. The vehicle had to weigh no more than 1,300 pounds, fit specific dimensions, have 4-wheel drive, do 60 miles an hour, and be delivered, this is the crazy part, in just 49 days. You had 49 days from the request to a working prototype. Most manufacturers back then laughed and walked away. But there was a scrappy little company in Toledo, Ohio called Willys Overland Motors. And they said yes. There's a story, I love this story, that when Willys needed to convince the military their Jeep was truly capable, they arranged a demonstration. 2 members of Congress in the steps of the United States Capitol building. They drove a Willys Jeep directly up the stone steps of the Capitol, all the way to the top, turned around, drove back down. Based on that, they won the contract. Between 1941 and 1945, Willys and its partners, Ford and Bantam, built over 650,000 of these vehicles. They landed on the beaches of North Africa. They crossed the deserts of Libya. They rolled through the streets of Rome when it was liberated, and they were in the Pacific and the Philippines on every front of that war. And one of them, on August 25th, 1944, carried Captain Raymond Drone of the French 9th Armored Division into the streets of Paris as the crowds went absolutely wild. The first Allied vehicle to enter the city, a Willys Jeep. The sun never set on a Willys Jeep. That was their advertising slogan, and it turned out to be more true than anyone imagined. Now the war ends. You got victory, you got celebration, soldiers coming home, and the United States military sitting on an absolutely massive problem. They have hundreds of thousands of Jeeps, surplus, no longer needed. What do you do with 650,000 battle-hardened vehicles when the battle's over? Well, you sell them cheap to whoever will take them. And in 1946, the Colombian Ministry of War, they called it the Ministry of War back then, began importing them. The first batch came through the port of Buenaventura, officially designated for the Colombian Army. The unit price on those original military contracts, $749 each per Jeep. That was it. A war machine for less than the price of a decent mule. This is a part that I could not verify. I've said it for years. I've read it, but I can't, you can't just read something, assume it's true. You have to dig back till you find something that's official. And I never did that. and I took it at face value that there was a certain portion of them were given to Colombia for doing certain things during World War II as a payback or a thank you. I wasn't able to actually verify it, but there's also a bunch of them that were sent to Colombia that aren't tied to any contract. So I don't know. So take it with a grain of salt of whether they were given or just given real cheap or whether they were part of a contract. But the Army didn't really need them at all here in Colombia. Colombia wasn't at war, and word got out, as word does in Colombia, that these little military vehicles were extraordinary on rough terrain. In Colombia, were nothing but rough terrain. The coffee farmers heard about them. Picture what farming in Quindío looked like in 1946. There was no paved roads, dirt tracks barely wide enough for a mule. And if you're here or you visited here, you know how steep these Andean slopes are, but that's where the best coffee grows because coffee loves altitude and it loves to make your life difficult. Everything that went into a farm had to be carried by mule. Every bag of coffee that came off a farm had to be carried by mule. A good mule could handle maybe 150 pounds. You need a lot of mules, a lot of feed, a lot of care, and a lot of time. The Jeep weighed about 1,000 kilos empty, but it could carry, when loaded the Colombian way, which is to say loaded in a manner that would make an American safety inspector cry, the equivalent of several mules at once. Up roads no trucks could dream of, in the rain and the mud, overnight if necessary. The story goes that the first demonstrations were held right in the church squares in the centro of small towns throughout the coffee region. Expert drivers loaded these Jeeps impossibly high and drove them up the steepest slopes they could find just to show the farmers what they could do. Farmers didn't need to see it twice. Now, here's the awesome detail. I love this. I don't think I've ever mentioned it before. Some of those first Jeeps didn't change hands for money. They were traded for coffee. Sacks of coffee exchanged for surplus military vehicles. I mean, think about it. The Willys Jeep arrived in the coffee region the same way coffee has always worked here, through barter, relationship, and through community. The farmers called these mulita mecanicas, mechanical mules, and the mechanical mule changed everything. Within a decade, the Willys Jeep had fundamentally transferred, throat break. Transform the coffee economy. Before the Jeep, only the farms accessible by mule trail could really participate in the market. The coffee had to get down the mountain into town somehow, and if the terrain was too brutal, you were isolated. Today, it almost feels like that. Your farm was limited. Your income was limited. The Jeep opened up the mountains, roads that no truck could navigate, that no car could survive, that would eat a normal vehicle alive. The Jeep handled them. Remote farms that had essentially been cut off from commerce were suddenly connected. Families who had been subsistence farming could now bring their coffee to market. Many historians credit the Willys Jeep specifically for why Colombian coffee became what it is today, a global product. Produced by hundreds of thousands of small family farms rather than a handful of industrial plantations, because the Jeep could go where industry couldn't. The company that imported them, Leonidas Lara e Hijos, or something like that, became so successful, they became the official Jeep assembler for all of Colombia by 1961. Building them right here, providing parts for this terrain, for this culture. But something else was happening alongside the economics. The Colombians didn't just use the Jeep, they adopted it. They made it theirs. They painted them bright colors, red, yellow, blue, green, whatever was bright. Colors that had nothing to do with the military olive drab and everything to do with the palette of the coffee region. Flowers and landscapes and faces of saints and virgins, religious medals hanging from the mirror, decorative rims and wheels, chrome accents. Each Jeep became an expression of its owner's personality and faith, pride, and family. And the owners, the Jeeperos, the Jeep drivers, became a kind of working class royalty in their community. The man with the Jeep was a man who could get things done. He was a connection between the finca and the town, between the harvest and the market, between the isolated and the connected. If you needed to move furniture to a new house, you called the Jeepero. If the harvest was ready and the rains were coming, who you going to call? If your grandmother needed to get to the doctor in town, you called the Jeepero. If you needed a coffin transported with dignity. And a Jeepero, it's Y, sounds like a J, IPAO, Jeepero, became not just the name for the Jeep itself. This is cool. And this, I'm telling you, it's true today. It became a unit of measurement. A Jeepao of coffee, a Jeepao of bananas. However much you can load onto one Jeep and still get it there, that's a Jeepao. The word Jeep, mispronounced through Colombian Spanish, became Jeep. Y-I-P, Jeep. And a Jeepao, a Jeep load, entered the language. And then there's a Jeepao competition. Now, this is, you guys probably know about because it's more recent. And it's where it becomes absolutely glorious. The celebration. In 1988, the community wanted to celebrate this vehicle that had become so central to their lives. I want a little side note. If you're to ask a Colombian girl, what vehicle could a man drive up in that would most impress them? If you went back 10 years ago, they'd all say a Jeep. Today, it's only about half of them, but still half of them would say that. Not Lamborghini, not Ferrari, not Mustang, but a Jeep. So they started a festival. And every year, right next door here in Calarca, and then I believe it was a year after, right here in Armenia, right where I live, Jeeperos bring their Jeeps and they compete. Now, the competition is organized and it's got categories. And I'll walk you through them because each one's its own mini masterpiece. Yeah, maybe I get carried away, but I love this story. First category, agricultural transport. You load your Jeep up with coffee bags, bananas, yucca, wood, citrus, as much as possible. You stack it as high as possible. The goal, the winner will be maximum load safely balanced. These Jeeps leave the ground on the rear wheels when they accelerate. I mean, it's not a malfunction. That's what you call winning. That's what winning looks like. Second category, Mr. CM, whoever you are, good morning. Second category, the moving competition. You load a Jeep as if you're moving an entire household. These were the moving vans once. And I mean the entire household, beds, chairs, tables, wardrobes, mattresses, refrigerators, sewing machines, paintings, the family parrot, the grandparents' picture, a toilet if you got one. The rule is everything has to come from a real household, and the goal is to get as much of someone's entire life onto one Jeep as artfully and completely as possible. Great topic. Thank you, Mr. Ben Sen Colombia, or Bob. Bob. People have fit the contents of 3-bedroom houses onto a singles Willys Jeep. Colombians do not believe in multiple trips. Third category, the stunt. This is the one that it's all over YouTube. It's all the little shorts. And it's the one when you first see it, might stop your heart. The driver loads the Jeep with his up to 1,800 kilos. What is that? 3,000 pounds? About, no, maybe more, about 2 tons of cargo stacked specifically on the rear of the Jeep. And then he accelerates hard and the front wheels lift completely off the ground. The Jeep drives on its rear wheels only, perfectly balanced, which is the key. Front end's in the air. The driver somehow is steering this thing with the front wheels off the ground. And it goes down the street. Well, the crowd goes crazy. And it'll turn in circles and the crowd goes crazy. And a family member will be up on the hood, keeping its balance and leaning forward and leaning back and helping steer this thing. It's going in circles, it's weaving down the road by design, all on 2 wheels. In 2006, the town of Calarca set a Guinness World Record. The longest Jeep parade in history. Over 370 Willys Jeeps rolling through the streets in procession. The Colombian Congress in 2020 recently declared the Willys Jeep officially as the intangible cultural heritage of the nation. It's not a museum piece. It's not a historical artifact. It's an intangible cultural heritage. And most of them are still running today. Now, granted, they might have a Toyota diesel engine in them or whatever they could grab to keep them going, because you could only rebuild those engines from the 1940s for so long. And eventually they expired and you had to do something. And so you open the hood on one of those, you never know what you're going to find inside. But many of them still have original engines. It's part of the living soul of the country. It's like language and tradition. It's like a way of being. Now here's what I think about when I see one of these Jeeps rolling past my window. That Jeep left a factory in Ohio headed for the battlefields of Europe. It carried soldiers across North Africa. It rolled into liberated Paris. It did its job. The war ended. America didn't need it anymore. And it found its second life here in these mountains, carrying coffee instead of ammunition, carrying families instead of soldiers, decorated with saints instead of military markings. The machine that was built for destruction became the machine that was built on economy. And it's still here right now, today, on the roads here in Quindío. Not as a touristy thing, but as the workhorse it's always been. Most of them are still the same basic design from the 40s. Because they still work, because local mechanics know every bolt. Because simplicity is a feature. It's not a limitation. And you can take one apart in your kitchen if you need to. You can fabricate a replacement part in the same forge that makes horseshoes. The Jeep arrived here as surplus from a war most Colombians had nothing to do with, and Colombia turned it into something entirely its own. Next time you see one rattling down the road overloaded with bananas or carrying 8 people up to Salento, take a second to look at it and think about it. It's not just a Jeep. It's a vehicle that helped liberate France, helped fuel one of the world's great coffee industries, and became a symbol of what happens when a culture takes something foreign and makes it something completely, beautifully, irreversibly their own. the mulita mechanica, the mechanical mule, still working, still climbing, and it's still carrying everything you own. And that's my story today. So, what do you think? I hope I did it justice because that was my intention today. All right, let me run over to chats here and see if we got anything going on. Great topic. Libby, good morning. How are you, Libby? George, he's you see there? You see? That's got the YouTube symbol. Buenos dias from sunny Northern California. Why does Rumble keep throwing me off coffee time and putting me in Major League Fishing? Because you click the join button up there at the top that takes you to the Major League Fishing. Don't do that. That's every week because of something in YouTube. Every week I put in, they're called raids, where I'll see a channel. I say, oh, that's kind of, somebody might find that interesting. And I put the button up there. So you might want to go off and look. The point is, Rumble is a lot more than what you think it is. Rumble is pretty much every creator that you happen to like, particularly the bigger ones, they're probably on Rumble. And the nice thing about Rumble is you go over to YouTube, we're talking about log content. There are some people that you would watch on YouTube, but after half an hour, they cut off. But in Rumble, they not only played live in Rumble for that half an hour, but they're playing an additional hour or so that they cut off from YouTube. So I put a thing up there every week because Rumble asked me to for last month and this month. It'll probably go away next month. But the join isn't joining this channel. The join is you're just going over and looking at that channel that's going on right now. If you want to join this channel, it's below the it's where the description is, just like with YouTube. Underneath the video that's going on, there'll be a strip of things there. And below that is description, the words for contact information, things like that. It's all of these are very similar in format. Let's see. Russia was getting tons of Willys during World War II. My dad was driving one in the 1950s while in the Army. That's true. They win everywhere. Colombia, I believe, got 65,000. I know that company that I mentioned, they had a contract. They bought 40,000. And then the government in Colombia bought 300. Those were the 300 they got. And so the 40,000 and 300, those were the ones that bought, but then you had up to 65,000, and that difference are the ones that somehow made it here without having to buy them. I don't know what the deal. I never looked in Russia whether they got any for free. I think those were left over because they were part of the land lease deal. They were part of the war, so they're getting airplanes and tanks and jeeps and things like that just as part of that program. And so then when the war is over, we didn't collect them. They just stayed there. And I think that's how Russia got them. Or the Soviet Union at the time. Let's see. George would love a late Yota. Oh, FG40. Toyota FJ40. I love those. I think up until this last year, you could still buy them new. So every year they've continued making them here, and they're an awesome vehicle. The only problem here is they're kind of big. They're kind of like the military Humvee in the United States. It's just a little too big for parking and things. Well, The Toyota FJ is kind of like that here. They're, they're kind of massive for our roads here and our parking spots. Craig, how you doing, Craig? Fascinating topic today. Thank you for bringing it. Thank you. I appreciate it. I never know how these things are going to hit, but I've been excited all week. I wanted to do coffee time days ago because I was excited to tell the story. And so you never know, it's like, well, maybe everybody will hate it. You don't know, but at least I enjoyed it telling the story. And I can't believe Craig, you're a long time listener of this channel. You go back, I don't know, a year. I think you go back to Ecuador. You've heard me mention the Jeep along the way, and I've told bits and pieces, but I never told the story. And it dawned on me, I felt like an idiot. Why didn't I ever do that? It's a cool story. Anyway, Soviet Union received approximately 44,000 to 52,000 from the United States through Lend-Lease during World War II. Right. I didn't know the amount. I actually would have guessed more, but I'm sure that's in the ballpark. Yeah, they're an amazing vehicle. I grew up working in a junkyard, as many of you know, from the age 10 to 15. And in this junkyard in the spring, it became a nightmare. We had about 2,000 cars. It was on a huge lot. And the roads, I loosely call them roads, the dirt paths that would go kind of a loop through. I don't know how many acres, 20 acres maybe. It would just become quicksand. I mean, it was horrendous mud and clay. It was awful. And there were only two vehicles in that time of the year that I could drive back there. One was a Willys Jeep. It would go. The funny thing is even if you go to get it stuck, it had a throttle, push and pull on the dashboard. And you could put it in gear, let the clutch out. The wall wheels are kind of spinning in the mud. You pull the throttle, you get out, and you push the Jeep yourself. And then you kind of run and jump in, once you get it going. It was amazing. No, there were three vehicles. There was that. There was a Dodge Power Wagon. Back in the day when they still had a crank start as an option, it was late 40s, I believe. It was a military spec. We had it as kind of a tow truck. We used it back in the lot to pull cars up on their side so we could cut them with a cutting torch, all the iron out of it and stuff like that. So that would always go. That thing was unstoppable. And the third one was a Volkswagen Beetle. They got a flat floor pan underneath, and it was almost impossible to stop those things. And in the snow, it was also an amazing vehicle. Nothing else would go back there. If you tried to take anything back there, it would get stuck. If you tried to take a Chevy 4-wheel drive, forget it. I mean, anyway, that's the way it was. It's so, I kind of grew up with Jeeps too. You got that one. All right, I covered all those. All right, we got anything else we want to talk about? We're no football today, but we're running up on an hour. I try to keep within an hour, although it seems like there's a lot of Sundays I end up an hour and a half, depending on what people have and what they want to talk about. I want to thank you. A nice crowd again today. We've been having very nice numbers for viewership. I really appreciate it. All those numbers that I have to hit for Rumble if I want to get paid for the month, except for the chats, those numbers are coming easy these days. The number of views and watch videos and all that stuff, it's just it is snowballed, and so that's nice. And what I especially like is, unlike YouTube that would strangle me, Rumble's just wide open. It doesn't interact in positive or negative way with what's going on my channel. So if I get a subscriber, I keep a subscriber. YouTube, I get a subscriber and it will delete one. I get another one, it'll delete it. I get three, it'll delete three. That's why I've stayed at 4,000 on the channel, which I've mothballed. I'm not broadcasting on my original Coffee Time Live channel. That just sits there because it's just too frustrating for me to have. I think we're 5 or 6 years into that channel where I was stuck at 4,000. If you look today, it's still at 4,000. It just, as soon as I would get people subscribed, it would just turn around and cancel them. Now, on my private channel, personal channel on YouTube, that was never flagged by YouTube. And so it's got its own thing. But I don't want to depend on YouTube anymore. So I'm throwing things over there just as kind of an afterthought. My entire focus is on Rumble. And it's beginning to be more on X also. But that has more to do with my Sane in Colombia channel. Let's see. Libby, I had Jeep, not Willys, but Grand Cherokee. It was good too. Had it till 380,000 miles and sold it for 400, still running. Yeah, I've had a bunch of Jeeps in my life. I bought a brand new Jeep in 1974. Jeep Renegade, had a V8 in it. The only color they had on the lot with a V8 was purple. I wasn't a fan of the purple, but the Jeep, I loved the Jeep. I drove it from New York to California a couple times, actually. Love that thing. I owned a Jeepster. You may or may not know what that is. Mine was a convertible Jeepster. It had a V6 standard shift in it, and that was a winter car, and I had that for a couple years as a sidecar. Not a sidecar motorcycle, but a second car. Yeah, I've had a couple road Jeeps also. One of my most beloved Jeeps wasn't exactly a Jeep. It was an AMC Eagle, that four-wheel drive station wagon that had drivetrain borrowed from Jeep. I love that thing, even though the knobs would come off in your hand. I mean, the quality was not the best, but it was kind of indestructible. I mean, outside of the trim stuff that had a problem mechanically, it was pretty indestructible. It had the AMC 6-cylinder engine that just would never quit. Okay, anything else? All right, I'm going to wrap it up. I do want to. That's it. Jeep 4.0 liter engine was great. That's the 6. That's a straight 6. That's the one that was in that Eagle also. It had the same. It had a Jeep engine, transmission, and the drivetrain. It was a Jeep with a car station wagon body, and it had car suspension, so it was more comfortable. So it wouldn't have been the best strictly off-roader, but a combination of, and if you're driving, bad roads in the winter and things like that, it was killer. We'll never forget my 1998 Wrangler. I bought it the second year of active duty and had it through my 20s. Many memories taking it to the campsite and the beach with a keg in the back. Yeah, the one I told you I bought new, the 74 Renegade, I was in the Marines and I bought it. I was on leave, bought it. That's why I went back to California, because I had to get ready to get shipped overseas again. And we flew from California. The things I say we, because there are always friends involved, that we did with that Jeep, the things that it saw, the places we went, the night parties that we went to. It was something. I had an 89 YJ. Sweet. It's it's amazing the status that a Jeep here has in Colombia. But I talk about this once in a while. There's things about the culture here that are fading. And this is one of them. There are people, if you talk to university students, which up until this past year, I did frequently, almost like man on the street polling kind of thing, get opinions. I used to do that for videos all the time. I would go down around, not only I would talk to my friends, but I'd be walking around that area where the University of Quindío is. And because for a while I lived there, so I got used to it. And so I would kind of gravitate there. There's always college students all over the place. And if I wanted to know about a particular topic or whatever to get impressions of, I would talk to university students there because it seemed like they very often had a very different opinion than people that were in their 30s or 40s. So I kind of miss that. But there's so many things that I would bring up that they would have no knowledge of or didn't care about that used to be so embedded in culture. I mean, outside of Cali or some certain places, salsa's kind of going away. And that was the entire country of Colombia. Everywhere you went, every night, but especially every weekend, there was salsa dancing. It didn't have to be in clubs. It could be right in your barrio. I mean, it was just all the time, everywhere. And now you have to hunt for it. You have to look for it because it's not there. It used to be in your face. You didn't even have to think. All you had to do is go outside your door and you're probably going to run into it. And it's not like that anymore. And the knowledge of the Jeep and what it means, it's kind of disappearing. And the other thing, like Salento, why Salento is popular. When you talk to people here that are under 30, they usually don't even know how and why Salento became popular. So there's so many things that were embedded in the culture that's kind of fading away. And it's no different. The U.S., the same thing. When Route 66 was open, there were a lot of things that you would see on Route 66 that were part of the culture. But that closed up decades ago. And so you have people hear the story, see it in a movie, but they don't personally have a connection to certain things. Like the campground with the giant teepees that are actually just a little motel to stay in. The big donut, you see that in the movies. There were all those things when you went down 66 that were attractions to draw people in. It was all larger than life. You'd see these big dinosaurs, and it's like, who the heck made that? You would see all this stuff. They call it kitsch. You would just, from the East Coast to the West Coast, you'd see this stuff. It's what made Route 66 awesome. And then it became something you'd see in movies, and it became something that's just forgotten. Burma shave. Yeah, us older people, we remember Burma shave. We look for it. You'd wait for the next sign, the next sign, the next sign, and then you're looking for the punchline. And we'd all be in the station wagon. We'd be laughing and Burma shave, yeah. People today don't even know what Burma shave is. So these things have a lifespan. And it's sad when you start to see them go by the wayside. Now, the Jeep has been hanging in there, and they're trying to keep it going by having these annual Jeep contests and things like that. But it begins to take, instead of the people seeing it and having a connection with it, it's part of the family. It's like a living thing that saved our family from poverty. And instead of that, they're just seeing something that's entertaining, watching it. It's like, oh, I've seen that, okay, and walk away. And the connection gets lost. And it's a shame, but I mean, it's how life goes. But it's sad that that's how life is. Anyway, let me get that off the screen. I'm rambling. I do want to do a tiny promotion for myself, my Sane in Colombia channel. right here on Rumble. You'll find it in the main account here. I'm still doing the series on AI. I think they're really good. And I think if you're interested in how to use it, why to use it, or if you're using it, how to make it work for you and efficient for you, you're going to find the answers in those videos. And they're free. They're there for you to see. If you have any questions about it, feel free to email me. I've gathered all this stuff, and I hate to see it go to waste. So I'm trying to memorialize it all so that people have access to the effort that I've put into to get to the place I'm at with it. It's all pretty amazing, and it's all still happening. And you're going to find in the next handful of months where it will completely invade your life. And it's what you decide to do with it. It's going to matter. And the more you know about it, the more you can make it be helpful to you. I found it to be immensely helpful for me. I couldn't get all this. If you're from the outside looking in at all the stuff that I've accomplished and that I've been working on, that you're aware of probably the last 4 or 5 months. Prior to that, I didn't really tell anybody. But in the last 4 or 5 months, if you're seeing the acceleration of how much I've been able to accomplish, it's because I've been able to use AI, which compresses everything to 1/10 of the time. Anyway, so check out that channel. I think for now, I'm waiting for suggestions, but currently I'm going to try every Thursday at 11 a.m., like coffee time at 11 a.m. on Sunday. I'm going to try to do a reoccurring live show. I don't know if that time suits people. I have no idea. So I'd love it if people would tell me. It's like, yeah, I'd like to watch it, but to see it live, I need it to be on such and such days and hours. That would be very helpful because I really don't know. Do you know that in modern Russia, people call all SUVs Jeeps? Yeah. It's like zero. Yeah, it's. In other places in the world, it's not unusual, and even in the U.S., there's a generic term for the rustic SUVs, not the car SUVs. They're not really SUVs. They're not sport utility vehicles. They're kind of like disguised station wagons. That's what you have in the U.S. these days. Well, all over the world for new cars. But the ones that are like body on frame, rugged Toyota Land Cruisers and things like that, the generic term of Jeep, it's not uncommon everywhere. And here especially with good reason, and similar reason in Russia, I would assume, in all countries related to Russia, which was a lot of them. Okay, that's it. Last call for any questions, and then we'll bail out for today. I will see you next week. Please look for me. I've already pre-written, I think, about 6 shows for AI, 6 important topics that I want to get out there. So you look for those. There's already a bunch of them, 6 or 7 already. And there's other things. I talk about other things over there. I talked about the new British political party. I talked about I don't know, different things. I do some things on politics there, but my focus is almost entirely on AI recently. All right. That was my last call. Saw a couple people drop off, so it's cluing me in that it's time to end it. So, where is my producer? Here we go. I will see you next week. Ciao.
Yeah. Armenia.